Sorry, Alec, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus.
No, it's okay. If I can cut them off, I'll cut them off. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's all right. All set? All right.
Awesome.
Trevor, take it away.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm actually very excited to hear your thoughts. I think this idea has some things we can, pull in from like kind of the data science world, public service world, and the technology space. So I'm very excited. I also want to thank all the people that are competing against me, I suppose. It's really kind of inspiring to see the ideas that you guys have. It's really cool to work with some gym bros and some hair care people, and I really find your guys' idea amazing with kind of the bioenergy stuff. So I'm really just very excited to be here today and to be able to kind of work with you all. So in that excitement, I wanted to kind of go a different route, if you will. And so I want to maybe go the boring route. And I want everyone to imagine municipal elections. And so what do those look like? I want you to kind of feel the stale air of your community center. Maybe feel the scent of butterscotch off the nice old lady that gives you the I voted sticker. And just kind of use that to, it's really thrilling to kind of think about that side of things. But I find it interesting. I find local elections and things like that interesting. Not really because of me, but more so because of the guy in the top right corner of that photo. That's my dad. And we're from Kansas City. We're Chiefs fans, Royals fans. My dad really likes Kansas City barbecue. But more so, he loves voting.
Which Kansas City?
We're on the Kansas side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good, thank you. He loves voting, which I always found interesting as a kid. He was always, he's a doctor, he works very hard, but he was always the first one up. And he always wore his best clothes, and he wanted to be the first guy in line at the community center to vote. Any election, I always found that odd. And I didn't really get it. And then it kind of rubbed off on me. And so I really like voting too, and I find the local legislation process extremely valuable and interesting. This is my first time voting, presidential election 2020, it was during COVID and all that. And I was very excited because I saw my dad get excited about it all year, and I was ready to exercise my patriotic duty. And then I got to the voting booth, and I started checking off things that okay, I know I want to vote this person for president, this person for Congress, etc. And then I got to the local issues. And I was pretty dumbfounded. I didn't know any of the judges' names. I didn't know any of the local bills. I didn't know any of the state senators. And I was like, instead of feeling patriotic and proud of my I voted sticker, I kind of felt like I kind of missed the mark. And so that's what kind of excited me and inspired me to come up with an idea like Voting Booth. And Voting Booth aims to provide accurate, timely communication between government and citizens to further democracy at the local level. Basically, what that means is we want to work with, we want to have an online platform, most likely through an app or a website that helps young people be excited about voting again. The main problem here is we want to give constituents their voice back to a certain degree. And by that I don't mean that constituents don't have a voice. It's just that millions of people don't vote in local elections. And those that do don't have a proper understanding of the problems in their communities. I kind of look at you, and you might have experienced this, and it kind of interests me in that way. And so I just kind of want to help young people to figure out how to do this. And so who am I to say that I can innovate or change how democracy is operated? I'm Trevor Sinclair. Right now I'm a one-man band, but I'm an economics and operational analytics student at the University of South Dakota, scheduled to graduate in May 2024. Begrudgingly, I had early interest in local politics through the Overland Park Teen Council, which is a suburb of Kansas City. My mom made me sign up for it, and I got some really great experience. I got to learn what local politics is kind of like and how much they impact the day-to-day lives of their citizens. Continuing on to kind of what I do now, I currently serve as Director of Finance for the Student Government Association here. I've had a really great time kind of learning how to allocate funds to different student organizations to provide the best overall campus experience for students. That leads into what I view as the problem, and that communications between local politicians and citizens is extremely inefficient in my view. no one, especially young people, comes out to vote for their local people, and as that's been increasing, I think that there's a real hole in the market to find ways to engage young people, because they feel like their votes don't matter, and they feel like they can't have a say in democracy now. And that's not because of the fact that they might not care. It's because they do care. They just feel like the system doesn't reward the ideas that they have, and that they don't necessarily feel represented by their government. So this is a big issue. 27% of voters participated in a municipal election, according to the New York Times. That's a total of 242 million people in the United States that abstain from exercising their democratic right in their local government. And this isn't only important because of, well, you're not voting for the people that are going to represent you. These people are allocating $2 trillion of your money that you are just abstaining from having a say in. And so that's kind of where I find, that's what I quite bluntly find a problem with. And there's a silver lining in all of this, is that while maybe there's not, a know-how, there is a want to know. And so this data is from Ernst & Young, and this will always exist, this 17% of disinterested people, that they don't really care how their local government goes about their business as long as they get it done. But I kind of want to focus on the other 69% of people that want to know more, they want to speak up, or they want to get involved. Those are the people that I find interested in, and those are the people I think we can help do that, especially in the Gen Z and millennial kind of age range. And so my solution is voting booth. I want to bring democracy to people, bring it online, put it in people's phones so that they can't avoid it, or they can avoid it less easily. Make it accessible and easy to understand for young people, and we want to just make the government decision process more transparent, and help young people to be able to share and grow their interest in their communities, and provide key insights to governments and businesses. That's where we make the money. So most importantly though, before I get into kind of the business side, this is how we make money. The idea and the purpose behind this business is to begin to reinstate young people's belief in the democratic system. That's what I find most important. But here's what I kind of envision the capabilities of voting booth being able to do. I kind of named them after different things within the democratic system, although maybe the definitions don't necessarily fit the title. I want to have a town hall kind of aspect where people can have an open line of communication with their local politicians and constituents. I want to have and this is the big idea here, I want to have a place where politicians can gauge support for legislation and bills by polling citizens in real time via their electronic devices. So, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but how can we buzz somebody on their phone and say, how do you feel about this bill? Or how do you feel about growth in this area? How do you feel about a new construction job on your street? And then the people that are representing all these citizens, well, the citizens can have a say, and the representatives can make better decisions. And then I think overall, better and more easily accessible and readable information on politicians that might not be very well known during elections would be beneficial for the general public. So this is kind of an app mock-up I created. It's not exact or anything, but I think it would be very cool. So in Minnehaha County, there was on the last election, right? Jay Stelzer, a Republican, I believe, state senator, that he could bring up whether his constituents wanted to expand Medicaid or not. And then you can go in and either using like a Heimlich scale or like I agree or I don't agree, and then using some sort of there's millions of ways that you could gauge that, but how much do your citizens support or don't support what you want to do? So that's kind of that's the big idea here. I'll get into why in a little bit, but also think being able to have times, or in university we say office hours, right, where you can go and talk to a teacher that you're having trouble with in their class. Maybe you could find a time to do a Q&A with Paul Tenek and the mayor of Sioux Falls, or talk to a state senator like Jessica Mayers, or even talk to a U.S. House representative like Dusty Johnson. Even if it's just for a little while, I think opening that direct line of communication will really help with people feeling like they have a say in their democratic system. Competition-wise, There are a few things. I don't necessarily find them too egregious. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to laugh off Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, but the competition in a sense would exist from government incentives, pre-existing social media companies like I just listed, small firms, and public online resources. And so government incentives have been used, like let's say, you know, I go vote in the local election and I'm entered into a $25,000 lottery to, you know, if I win it, then congratulations to me. That's great, and you probably will get more people to the booths, but will they be informed when they get there? That's kind of the problem I see, and how maybe we can outmaneuver them there. Pre-existing social media companies are large and they have great reach. However, they kind of fail when it comes to really defining a local body, and maybe are a little too spread out to really make individual change in a county or a small city. And there's been things like this. It's My Town is one. They seem to be non-operational at this point. In my research, they spread themselves a little too thin. They try to kind of include themselves in community events in cities and spread themselves out a little too much, and kind of lost their focus from their original political goals. And then public online resources are great, and you can find all of this data in public online resources. They're just really, really dry and really hard to find. So I think, you know, kind of making those resources more accessible and easy for especially young people would be a great way to expand. So this is kind of where we get into the business model. The primary thing that I see is in that middle voting booth category, right? And so I think that there is possible growth for the other two streams, but this is where I see, you know, probably some revenue coming in. So voting booth retains ownership of all the data collected on its platform, and governments can access this data. However, voting booth provides data analysis to pull key insights. And this will create two revenue streams. So governments, local governments, Minnehaha County, you know, Clay County will pay to purchase voting booth as a service, and then they can access the data that their constituents are providing to them. And then additionally, if they want to buy that data outright, then they're able to, but I think really where you probably start making money is by selling the data that you collect from constituents to private entities for them to make better decisions. And so let's say, you're sitting right here, so I'm gonna talk Vermilion. Let's say that you guys were going to expand Vermilion's downtown strip all the way past Bunyan's. You could then collect that data. We could sell that data to a contractor or a developer and see, well, if no one in Vermilion is interested in having a strip that goes all the way down to Bunyan's, then why the heck are we spending all this money to do so? You can avoid PR nightmares and all these sorts of things with, you know, the data that we collect from people that live in the region. You're not going off these large demographics that don't accurately describe small towns or mid-sized cities. Triple bottom line. I think that this is important. This is an idea at the end of the day, but I think that it's powerful, and I think that there's lots of room for growth and scale. So the $23 billion government consulting industry, that number surprised me, that $23 billion of, frankly, our money is being spent to give to consultants who, you know, may or may not be of use, depending on your ideology. And you know, and additionally, just being able to collect data, analyze data, and use data is a growing industry. It's on my poster down there, and being able to kind of grab a small piece of that would be amazing. This is a real people issue, especially for young people. I don't know if you guys would agree, but I don't really feel like I'm represented quite well by the people that are at the federal level or the state level. And I want to kind of change that. So how can we provide an unbiased perspective on politics to allow government officials and citizens to speak for themselves and allow young people to kind of make the future that they want to see without having to sift through some companies with ulterior motives. Additionally, I think that if voting booth was to take off and blow up, then I think there's some really interesting things we could do with the planet. Eventual growth internationally, providing aid to countries with strict censorships as a way to seek political truth. I think that's kind of a virtuous thing, but at the end of the day, it's far, far out, but definitely possible. So this is kind of the timeline. for voting booth. Initial round of funding is kind of right now. This is an idea, but I have a really strong network of people that I know are smarter than me. I think that's extremely important. I know a lot of people with better political experience, better political knowledge than I do, better technical experience, especially better technical experience when it comes to coding and building these sorts of machines, better data analysis experience. But my skill kind of lies in connecting all of these people and building teams that can do really, really cool things. But I kind of want to start Voting Booth as a website. And I'm not sure how you all feel about that. I kind of would be interested to see your thoughts. But I think that would be kind of interesting to, instead of going right in an app, kind of have a proof of concept as a website for fall 2024 into that presidential election. After proof of concept success in Sioux Falls, I would love to be building an app. We would call that Voting Booth 2.0, and eventually launch that app in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a much larger market than Sioux Falls. But I think that making adjustments close to home would be very interesting. And then expand through Midwestern cities. Midwestern cities are attractive to me because there's such loyalty in them, and people care. Like people in Chicago care what happens in Chicago. People in Kansas City care what happens in Kansas City, and so I think that's pretty interesting. I'll speed up here. That's pretty much it. And I would love to hear any questions or any advice that you guys have. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, hi judges, we have 4 minutes for questions. Thank you.
Well, I have a quick question.
Yep.
Your focus is to get young folks interested in local issues and
Yeah.
more knowledgeable about local issues. How are you going to reach these young people? What mechanism are you going to reach to get them excited about this?
So something I looked at while building this process is there's actually somebody already on TikTok that does short form video content, and he has over 500,000 followers, most of which are young people, well past his constituents. And so I think just having a resource for young people to be more involved and knowledgeable about their politics would be something that people would engage with initially. Also, I think there's ways that we can make, I really like the government incentives idea. I think you can bring that into this a little bit and provide incentives either financially or in some sort of like gamification of your local politics to make it more appealing to young people.
I really like your proof of concept idea. I think that's a good testing ground for you and that kind of thing. So where do you get the content that goes into it? I mean, some of it from the polling part, because
Right.
I've got some ideas on that.
Okay.
But some of it, comes from the users and they're being able to pull on the
Right.
phone. But you're also pushing
Yeah.
information out, in effect, to some of the young folks. So,
Mhm.
so where are you going to gather that information? What's your tool for that, or how do you plan on doing that?
I would use, right down here, this is kind of like an idea I had, like, in the news stuff from local sources. I think that's kind of, I don't want to, not to be rude, if anybody loves Fox News, that's great, but I don't want to pull, especially for this, don't pull from national news sources, pull from local.
And so you'll just scan it and pull it out and bring it in?
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's
And then also anything that, like, I kind of envision like these people being able to post things on there that they find relevant. So it comes directly from them.
Yeah, so some of it will be directly from them, some will be from the local press.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was one of the things I thought maybe you ought to be doing. One other way in which to get people engaged with
Yeah.
this is to have some of you, and this is a different way, people have to wait, right?
Yeah.
So where do you wait?
In what sense?
You're standing in line, you're waiting for somebody to serve you, when are you scrolling on your phone?
Mm-hmm.
Wherever those locations are for your
Yeah.
target,
Mhm.
that's where you need to have some even point of purchase or point of
Okay.
awareness.
Yeah.
This is what we've got, this is how you can get engaged with what we're doing, because I can guarantee you, I sit around while people are waiting at Jimmy John's or doctor's office or whatever.
Right.
And from a market research perspective, that's a prime time to get
Mhm.
engaged in short polls.
Right. I think that's really interesting because I've done a lot of research on Clay Christensen and his like kind of jobs to be done marketing philosophy, and so I think that would be really interesting to look into it.
So somehow tie
Yeah.
that together.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Don't do the website.
Okay.
There's more mobile users that are available. You're gonna get, a lot more interaction with people that are on phones.
Yeah.
Especially at the age groups at which you're looking at. you know, versus finding someone who's either on their desktop or is gonna punch in the URL. Remember the URL, apply to Google it or whatever,
Sure.
just come up with an app.
Okay.
You know, it's not expensive to do that, you don't have to develop the app, there's companies that can actually do that. You can roll that into your VC plan, to be able to do that. You're a quant, so you need to look at D-Wave, the quantum computing company. There's a company, I don't know who it is, but I know who they are, but they've actually used their quantum computers over the past 2 elections to predict people winning
Wow,
based
okay.
on their data.
Yeah.
So I thought that might,
That sounds
you might
really
find
cool.
that interesting. You say young people, which is really cool. When I say people have time to wait, I kept thinking of kids that were 14 to 18-year-olds, they got time to wait to be able to vote.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so you can reach them a couple of ways, right?
Yeah.
One of the ways that I would think about would be, and I'm from Florida, I'm not from here, but we have Florida Virtual Schools, which is, you know, a company like K-12.com or whatever, but they're required to take a civics class in middle school.
Yeah.
Imagine your app being part of their civics class to be able to see what's going on in the local community.
Yeah, there's something they do overseas, and in Germany, stuff like that, they have people
Yeah.
take like kind of political ideology tests and stuff to kind of figure themselves out.
And are you
That's
looking to
really
be a
interesting.
nonprofit or are you looking to be a for-profit?
That's kind of been something I've been struggling to figure out. I think I go either way.
Yeah. Because if you go for-profit, your bias is going to be,
Right.
it is going to be biased.
Yeah,
It's going to be biased upon your funding and the amount of profit that you make, right?
yeah.
So just take that into consideration. Your data, I like the fact that, you know, this is a data company.
Mm-hmm.
So you do one municipality, if you did Vermillion, and you gathered all of this data, then what you would need to do would be what? Look across the country for municipalities that are very similar to this, and then share that data and grow your data set.
Okay.
The other thing I would do as a selling point would be if you get, you know, let's just say you get 3 people that are interested in, you know, 3 politicians that are interested in using this platform,
Sure.
as a way to be able to talk, notify the uninvolved. Notify
Okay,
the
yeah,
uninvolved
yeah.
politicians, make it in terms of notifications. I think what would be really interesting, what I would love to see, would be every time somebody posts like their competition,
Yeah.
it's a notification. Well, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna go into it.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna start seeing heated debate amongst politicians, which is great for voters,
Sure.
because they're gonna be able to form their own opinions.
Yeah.
based on that. You're gonna need legal.
Yeah, I know
No
that.
way around that. But the other big thing you're gonna need is an application integration specialist, right? In order to be able to do in the news on an app, you're gonna need to have someone who understands how to do API integration, right? There's also, if you haven't been to data.gov,
Mm-hmm.
that is the sole source of all federal, you know, open source data.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that you can possibly use in that too. I loved your spending slide. However, $422 billion last year was spent on artificial intelligence, and
Mhm.
$500 billion is going to be spent this year,
Yeah.
right? So
I-
I'm sure
I know
there's
that's
something
what
in
it's
there where
yeah.
you're utilizing some, you know, some AI tool set
Mhm.
to be, and maybe here's the thing, maybe because you are doing polling, you can do predictive analytics based upon the inputs that the kids are doing. So are you gonna make money based on just selling the data?
That
So
was
it's
kind of
gonna
the
be
original
free and
idea.
open platform kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then Google it?
That was the original idea, but I didn't want to open it up too much. I kind of want to only have it in cities that pay to use the platform so that you're not.
Your EY pie chart was off.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
But, no, it's just, it was a little confusing because you had 17% of the people were uninterested,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
it's-
then,
yeah,
and I see
think
where your
probably should've.
numbers, I see where your numbers are all.
Yeah.
And that's fine, just an FYI.
Yep, thank you.
I love the fact that you had your source down there too, because that was great. And, yeah, and then if you're a for-profit company, political contributions, you know, you're gonna have politicians that are gonna wanna be able to have a voice, and this could be a platform for it. Oh, the other thing, the competition, the neighborhood app.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds like we should hire you,
That's
Chris.
all. Sorry. All right, sweet.
All right.
We are a little over time. Is there anything to address?
Thank you
It
very
sounds
much.
like you really piqued our interest, so.
Maybe, I don't know, I hope so.
All right.
Thank you guys very much, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.